Alright, so this is for Godzilla vs. King Kong 2021. This is the review um, for the release of 2021. Um, Essentially, what we're going to be going over here is an in depth review. There's going to be spoilers. Um, how I do my review is going to be a little different than most people how they do it. Most rating systems, as I'm point out here, do it 5.0, and that's what I'm going to do, but I rate the movie differently, or my movies, as in their genre as well as an overall movie as well. Um, I'll compare this movie to other respective movies you may see related to uh, as well, and their inspirations, which would be King Kong versus Godzilla in the 1962, Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, Terror of Mechagodzilla, King Kong Lives, Son of Kong, King Kong. There's a lot of movies which I did do a previous video on, mentioning movies you should watch to catch up to get and other material in there as well to get caught up for this movie so you can understand what's going on. Being this is the fourth movie in this series here. And I have to say, essentially, I give this movie as a general movie overall 4 points out of 5, and as a monster movie or kaiju movie or in its own genre, a 4.5 out of 5, and I label out why that is. Because realistically, it does have plot holes. It does have reasons as to why it's not the perfect movie, but it is a great movie. And it's great entertainment value, which is why it does so well and sells and makes money, and in its respective genre, it's an amazing movie. Well, it's a 4.5 out of 5. Yes, it could obviously use improvements and probably should have been longer than it is, but there's decisions made to do the things it did. Let's go over this. Story for the average audience, it scored a 3.5 out of 5, and a 4.0 for the monster fan base, I would say, as overall, that's because of many things here. I want to mention the basics here, and I basically list here this first reason here as a movie overall to go into without any prior information or expectations to present an above average story, which it does. It's one of those basic kind of stories. You get into it, it drives the force of everything in the movie, like why the monsters fight each other. It's very basic, very understandable, and plus, it's assuming you've watched the previous 3 movies and builds on that. It's very understandable. And as a monster movie, an excellent story that follows prior media and other material, making the experience for fans spectacular. Like I said, there is plot holes. The first plot hole being in the very beginning, they even in the comic where it's supposed to be explained Godzilla Dominion, I have read it, I have it here. They don't explain anything in regards to Rodan, which is mentioned at the beginning of the movie. And Mothra, they did explain at the end of King of the Monsters, but not Rodan. Rodan, for some reason, we know he bowed to Godzilla, and Godzilla did defeat him technically, speaking through Mothra, because Mothra defeated him. But the thing is, it's saying like Godzilla, or it brings up the notion like Godzilla had to fight him again in the beginning of the movie, but that never happened. Um, so all it's saying in Godzilla Dominion is Godzilla had to go through defeat all these other monsters. In the beginning of the movie, it showed there too. Um, so I guess is it kind of brings about a misunderstanding of the movie that Rodan never actually had to fight Godzilla again, or Godzilla never fought Rodan again. Godzilla's uh, never had to fight Rodan. Is my point. Rodan actually is still perfectly fine, perfectly alive somewhere, and we don't really know what's going on with Rodan. And Mothra is not actually dead. They explain that at the end of Godzilla, King of the Monsters, the last movie from 2019. There's an egg on Infant Island being watched over, and they don't touch on that again in the recent comics, Godzilla Dominion or Kingdom Kong. So technically speaking, those that beginning part is technically a plot hole, and also technically not. But the real plot hole I want to talk about here, which is why I say it's technically the one plot hole, because maybe it's cut out footage or what from the 5 hours of footage cut out from what was an interview with the director said, because he wanted to do his cut of this movie, which is this is it. And I hope they do extra, like an extra section or something when the movie's fully released for purchase, and not just through HBO but other places as well. Like there's an extra section for like deleted scenes and stuff. Um, the story behind Serizawa's son or whoever that's supposed to be, um, and the dealings with Apex and all that. I want to know more about that because that kind of is a plot hole. It's not really explained. And in the background of the movie, they even do mention what happened to Bobby Brown's mother. I forget her name in the movie. Although I should know it because I've watched the other movies. It, it's kind of how they drive the character development in the movie. It's very minor. Um, Although she's even Godzilla Dominion in the comic and stuff, and her dad, um, somewhat narrating certain points of the movie. I mean, the comic, excuse me, not the. Um, yes, it shows like in her room when she's doing research on the conspiracy theorist guy that it shows articles of her mother, like they're basically titles and other indications. Articles wondering if she's a villain or a victim is kind of what they kind of indicate there. And it's obviously well past still if the incident with Ghidorah and everything. So there's still obviously something ongoing with her situation too, and that's why she's not in the movie or fully. And plus, there's obviously other things that could be going on with other movies, but that's what they did with her part of the story. Because her character is supposed to somewhat be um, relevant, I guess, if you're talking crazy scientist kind of characters. And that's where I'm going to go into the characters portion here for this story. We're looking at a 3.0 for the average audience. The average audience would be like, I get it, it's average, it's good enough to push the story, the narrative, and everything. And the characters, though, people don't understand with the average audience why it's a 4.0 for um, MonsterVerse fans or Toho fans, all this other stuff, because a lot of people don't understand that the monsters are characters too. Like we're talking King Kong, Godzilla, Mecha Godzilla, or King Ghidorah. Those are also characters. If people don't consider that for these movies, and they're main characters. Godzilla versus King Kong is average. I listed there specifically. and that a lot of average people who come to the movie don't understand the prior history of the characters from previous media material, and are not as up to date on fans, which is completely fine, completely normal, because we're talking over 60 years of history to have to catch up on with all this media and stuff involving these characters, including Kong. There's just so much. A lot of people aren't even aware there's like TV series with Kong and stuff. So it's a lot. Yeah, so basically what I'm saying here, I was trying to give one little time to read this if they wanted to, is talking about the plot hole and stuff too here. Which I mentioned earlier, is the they did a pretty good job with characters. They even were trying to set up references and stuff for the Kingdom Kong, um, uh, with the one scientist, I can't remember his name, who was referenced to Skull Island, trying to go to Hollow Earth with the um, without the help of Apex's ship earlier on. They mentioned like the 70s or 80s and the Monsterverse timeline. Um, and that's what Kingdom Kong is kind of about. It goes reference back to that kind of stuff and other things. Kong was known as Skull Island. I don't have the comic, but from what I understand, reading the basic, not overview, but what the I can't remember the exact word, what the preview of the comic is, like when you look at the back cover of what it gives you an idea of what you're previewing it is. Um, Also, important comic to pick up and read. I still need to do that. Yeah, that's kind of the idea. Um, let's see here. Yeah, so from what I understand, reading Godzilla Dominion, which this is kind of interesting too. It's basically saying, in Godzilla Dominion, it kind of mentions this towards the end of the comic too, that um, during the war, Godzilla species and Kong species had um, um, like the Dagon, and which are a bigger Godzilla species and stuff. Um, I guess Godzilla himself had also been chased out of a territory he was trying to claim by a surviving Kong, an Elder Kong. It wasn't necessarily King Kong or his parents, was another surviving Kong. So that was kind of an interesting scene to see. And that's where Godzilla kind of they were showing he got his motivation uh, to kind of get revenge and hate for the Kong species, even though he might have not had one before because Godzilla was too young to be a part of that war. Um, so I thought that was kind of interesting to see that in Godzilla Dominion. And Godzilla kind of felt unsatisfied and angry from the result of what happened in the comic there, because there was a kaiju or monster or titan. I think it would be better to say titan because of the comic, that was able to kill this monster before Godzilla could return, called New Mech or something. I have to look it up here. Hold on, at the comic. There it is. Yeah, it's a creature. It's basically like a manda creature. Manda being the long dragon underwater serpent like thing from Atragon and other Godzilla movies. I actually mentioned what it's called here in the comic too. Titanus Tiamat. 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 And it's basically their version of Manda. And it's actually really cool. And of course, Godzilla doesn't kill any of these Kaiju mentioned were Titans in the comic, which is kind of funny because all the speculation that the monsters in the MonsterVerse are killed. Um, Interesting because the only ones he's actually killed so far in the movies are the Muto and King Ghidorah, and that's it. And Mothra's died. That's it, which is interesting because that means King Ghidorah can come back. That means Mothra is obviously coming back, and there's Muto around still. So I think that means there's a lot of open storylines available. So again, I think there's only plot holes because they had cutout footage. So again, I would like to know about more of like what's going on in Serizawa, why they did that. And I think it's because this Serizawa was maybe not supposed to be super important, but it doesn't look that way. That's the main plot hole I see here. Why, more of like why did he choose to get involved with Apex? What was his motivation? Everything. Why did Apex seek him out? Was it just his name, or did he actually truly have something, special, scientific wise or knowledge wise? But that's not truly explained in the movie. Um, it makes sense why they sought out the one scientist, his brother, the Hollow Earth and stuff, because he had knowledge and specializes in the field and stuff. But Serizawa's another thing. Background. When I look at something like background, I mean like looking overall like presentation as far as like environment, how everything interacts with in the background. Um, uh, like if you look at something, you consider like there may be no sound, just how nice it looks, lighting, everything. So the average audience would think that looks great, like a 4.0 out of 5. Um, it looks amazing. It's something that you could even watch like years later and be like, wow, that looks really nice. You know, maybe not 10, 15, 20 years from now, but even like, 9 years from now, it still look really, really nice. And that's how you know it's above average. It's like a 4. Even as like monster fans or monsterverse fans or Toho fans, it's like a 5 because we could watch it like 15, 20, 30 years down the line. We're like, yeah, this looks really cool. This looks really nice. They did a good job. And that everything looks and feels like it thrives there. It looks natural. It feels alive. It blends well. That's kind of the difference between a 4.0 and 5.0. Like, there's a bigger appreciation for these kind of things. And you can kind of see the direction. Um, when people who look at these subtle nods and other things, as a fandom, can look and see the direction uh, with even certain things in the background. The script is trying to point at things like I mentioned earlier. In the background, there's things put like subtly in the story a lot more in this kind of movie, like with the Bobby Brown's actor's mother. They use things like that in the background, and that's really kind of cool. Um, that's why sound design here was really important too. The way they utilized, not utilized, sound effects, the moments where they use choice for music and other things. Um, I think ambience, things like that. That was very important and well used. The average movie viewer is going to be um, in a theatrical environment, or if they have a nice home setup, very amused. Or I was even just really happy with just the headset on, able to really hear everything. That was really nice. I watched it with that kind of setting, sitting around, um, family and just normal TV, and in a theater. It was all really enjoyable to me. I felt for me the sound design was great. It was wonderful. You know, you feel like all these different things they do, you're going to separate. Um, I choose the word worlds because so it feels like you're entering such drastically different environments. Um, truly feels like something you'd be in, like something Toho would design's kind of nice. Um, and as music for me, this is a personal preference in my opinion, but also I'm trying to be unbiased here. I think an average is a three. Like you'd have a mix of people be like, I didn't care for it. Mixed people like, yeah, it was pretty cool. And as a fan, you'd have a overall happiness from the crowd. People are fans of the stuff. And me, like that's why I said the average audience will be unimpressed by the music collection of their film because you know it's average. As people say, like I didn't recognize very much of the music. There'll be people like that. They'll notice there's things that seemed like it would work in Kong's Island, so people recognize stuff from like that fit with Kong. That's what I would recognize. There'd be people who won't see stuff that would be really recognized too much with Godzilla, except for certain scenes. I mean, fight scenes. Um, it's just not gonna be a lot of choice stuff for music, and people aren't gonna really notice that. And it's you know it's average. It's not the biggest kind of movie for looking for music, and that's you know you can't really say it's bad, but you can't say it's the best. Um, and as a viewpoint, like I said, like a fan kind of deal. The rock stuff for me, like you know, as with Kong, I felt it could have been a little better, but it is really good still. Like again, it's personal for me, and I don't think it's the worst or bad decision on music, but it was good and matched well with the movie. That's how I felt. And I said perhaps there are better songs because there could have been, but it was good music. And I said for overall certain scenes with what could have they could have picked better music or certain things. For epic music, yeah, that's true. Maybe for fight scenes with Kong, even too, like representing him, they could have picked like some classic rendition of Kong music from old movies and maybe mix that in there a little bit too. Just to hype up, make him more like he's king. You know, he's finally king. He's King Kong. I that's how I felt, but um, I think the thing is, King Kong too. Like he did represent himself on his own as saying he's king too. Even though he's so inexperienced and young, he's definitely shown that from his actions and his choices. In the movie, he didn't really need music to do that. So again, I had to put it at least a 4.0 for the. Um, I think they did a good job with that. As the results, again, as a movie overall, it's a 4 for an average kind of movie, like comparing all movies. As a monster movie, it's definitely a 4.5 at least, out of 5. It's a great, like, monster versus monster movie. Um, the story is there. It also can lead into many sequels. They'll go into that a little bit here. Um, very satisfying ending for both Godzilla and Kong, and it has a winner uh, for them too. Godzilla winning, of course, just makes sense. Godzilla has been fighting a lot longer, a lot more experience. He at this point is just a lot stronger. Kong showing he has capability. Um, you know, with experience, he could have definitely possibly won, but um, and ruled just like his species did before. But it's just not what happened in this movie. Um, in fact, they did something that shows there's possible in the future that they could, uh, in fact, do something that's better than what happened before, and they could both end up being kind of the best of. They could both end up being kind of alphas, which I know sounds kind of weird, and that's not usually how that works, but The fact is, um, what I'm trying to say here is with how they set up the ending here, with Kong rolling over the Hollow Earth and Godzilla rolling over the surface, essentially, that's kind of what they ended up showing. That's kind of what Godzilla's chosen to do and ended up doing over the entire situation, anyways. That ends up probably going to be a good thing, anyways, because a lot of the trouble usually brews uh, from the Hollow Earth, anyway, so they can communicate with each other probably. I could just see a lot more possibility for more creativity in movies and other things like that. I think it's a great direction to go. I don't think anyone should be upset with that result. I mean, they could have very well had just Godzilla kill King Kong, and they didn't do it. I think it's great. Um, it's just what I'm getting to here. Um, right, and that's what I was saying. They could set up into like more movies like just for Godzilla wise, which I think Toho should kind of take advantage of too, like Biolante, Batra, more King Ghidorah, more mechas, Megalodon Gigan, um, and there's also more Muto, and there's also other uh, kaiju that are you know not as well known for some reason, like Hedorah. They have something like a combination of Hedorah and Destroyer called Shinomura. Um, so that would be something interesting to look at. Um, um, so I think there's a lot of possibility. Yeah, and that's why I mentioned here Mothra is alive. I talked about this already, answered this with Rodan. I was speculation trying to figure out. Because, yeah, Rodan, I'm just answering here. If Rodan did ever die, they make Rodan in the Toho series kind of like a Phoenix Demon Bird, where Rodan can come back and do kind of like a Mothra and other things too with Mechagodzilla too. Rodan basically has forms like Fire Rodan and other things, where Rodan's kind of like a phoenix. That was inspiration for that with Godzilla King of the Monsters 2019 movie. So I'm just saying, they probably chose not to do anything with Rodan yet, other than say, yeah, he has been beaten, but he's not dead. That's why I find that interesting. They just chose not to flat out fully explain that in any way, even through comics. Yeah. So presentation. Uh, yeah. So yeah, it does keep you involved. Keeps you awake basically. There's some movies you just like people flat out leave just because it's boring or preachy, or it just um, it's just too much one of those areas to the point where you just it takes you out of the movie. You don't have fun, so you leave, or you fall asleep. This movie you're getting what you paid for. And it's good, it's worth your money. Let's see here. Um, Again, I go over some inspirations for this movie. I looked over and found there's more Godzilla versus King Kong, Terror of Mecha Godzilla with the kind of crazy scientist, the remote control from the scientist using someone to remotely pilot the mechanical monster. Uh, an extra monster being involved, and then once they lose control and other things like that, and Godzilla against Mechagodzilla using their bones from another monster, is all kinds of things, and of course King Kong. And I'm talking about all these different ones. Combination. And there's others, of course, too. And there was expectations, Godzilla versus King Kong, Godzilla versus Mecha Godzilla, Godzilla against Mecha Godzilla, um, a definitive winner, a lot of good action with monsters, and where both parties won. And that's kind of what kind of happened. Is there was a combination, I'm just saying, of all of this. That's my point why I brought this up. A lot of people were expecting all of this stuff, and I was kind of too, honestly. And turns out I was right. Actually, this is what was, and a lot of people were right too. To be fair, it's what was going on, and they also did. To be fair, Son of Kong as well, but that was all back in Skull Island, Kong Skull Island, because the parents died. Those Kong is the son of those two. They just made him a lot bigger. Um, so the next question, I guess we all want to know, is where to go from here. Like, what movies could possibly happening next? Um, Godzilla versus Biolante would be a good one. And that could do into what's supposed to be the next movie is Son of Kong. Because the question is, if Kong's the last one, how is he gonna procreate? Well, genetics is usually how with science, bioengineering. And with bioengineering is how Biolante was made, with genetics. Using Godzilla's DNA and using uh, plant life. Well, so in other words, yeah, Biolante is kind of like in the movie called like a chimera, like a multi-formed, like, but it's because it uses multiple species DNA. And Biolante is also known as the immortal monster. Um, and a lot of inspiration for that could be like Serizawa's death, fighting up Godzilla with more weapons than just mechas. But also, I'll just give it a couple basic reasons. But also, again, this could also be used to help further certain species, like Kong, just to try and see if they can mix the DNA or edit genes or DNA. And there could be a greedy company out there, Apex. Maybe there's some certain people or company like Apex um, that, maybe during testing with the plant, like a rose, it's what it was classically, with good intentions, terrorist attack or something. That's usually what it is, and that's what it was in this movie. Um, that Biolante was created, and it was a rival to Godzilla actually, and Godzilla actually. Um, so in this case, it's a good movie. You can go and watch it. I think it's great. You should watch. One of my favorites. It ends up being a draw. Um, Godzilla beats it, but it also beats Godzilla, and the humans win too. So it's a very interesting movie. It's a very good movie. Um, and it's a sequel to Godzilla 1985 or Godzilla 1984 to fit, whatever version you want to watch. I suggest watching both if you've seen um, uh, the 1954, 1956 Gojira, or Godzilla King of the Monsters. They're both good. Um, yeah, that's the basic there. Um, so that's three movies you can get into. Um, and actually, I have to correct myself here. It's actually a sequel to Godzilla Raids Again. Which Godzilla Raids again is a sequel to 1954 Gojira and 1956 Godzilla King of Monsters. Depend again. Just the reason I mention uh, King of the Monsters or 54 Gojira is because if you want to see the version with Raymond Burr in it, or if you want to see the one with the original without Raymond Burr, just depends. But again, this is one huge possibility they could do, and it would make sense because of the bioengineering, biotechnology use. Another one I was looking at as a possibility, um, Gigan. Um, because with Gigan, um, anyone who's seen Godzilla versus Gigan would know, uh, there's a few origins to Gigan. Um, there's the one in Final Wars where it was an ancient rival to Mothra and Batra. Um, and it also has other implications in the other origin I'll talk about too, which is where we first saw his first appearance in the movie, Godzilla versus Gigan. But there's that one in Godzilla Final Wars, and it is discovered by a research crew. So there's that one. I'm talking about in regards to Godzilla Final Wars. And then there's the one where I'm just thinking possibilities for what could work for future movies here, or what would be next. And then there's Godzilla versus Gigan, where there's this uh, rich, powerful corporation that's under the, you know, it's actually masquerading as that, but they're actually aliens and they're trying to take over the world. But they're, you know, using that guys as that, and they're building kind of an empire and stuff. But that's the basic idea. It's a '70s movie. You have to cut it some slack, or late '60s movie. Um, the thing is, they're using. If they have any trouble with anything, they call upon Gigan to come and take care of their troubles. And they have like a command beacon or something in their headquarters to help communicate with Gigan. Gigan being biomechanical. So that's very interesting to consider. And they also have an ally with Gigan, a King Ghidorah. Just kind of showing that King Ghidorah is not the only King Ghidorah. There's other ones. It's kind of strange and interesting. Um, yeah, so it's again another thing they can, um, introduce aliens, but also showing more advanced technology. Um, and also at this point, Godzilla has to fight with a partner like Anguirus, but since there's no Anguirus, maybe they could use King Kong. Um, I'm just splitting possibilities, but also Gigan at some point. It's introduced again multiple times, and there's multiple Gigans. So I think that's something to consider. But I think more likely than that might be Megalon, which there is a reference in 2019, Godzilla versus or Godzilla King of the Monsters, to Megalon specifically, um, with the underwater kingdom. Whether it's supposed to be Atlantis or the Kingdom of Wu, it would make sense if it's Atlantis too, because um, that was also because there's other underwater kingdoms, and one of them was they had a champion monster called Megalon, and that introduces Jet Jaguar, Kingdom of Wu Manda, which they did apparently show in the comics here, because of Dominion being uh, Manda. Um, which again, that name was Titanus Tiamat, which again, that means they have some version of Gotengo they're going to introduce at some point somewhere, which is a reference to a huge warship that can go land, air, and sea. It's extremely powerful. It's made to fight specifically giant uh, wars, or even it can fight against titans. So I think that'd be something to consider. Um, and the Kingdom of Wu was the one that supported Manda. Atlantis was Megalon. Jet Jaguar, if anyone's wondering, that's specifically in Godzilla versus Megalon. He's a uh, size-changing robot that's uh, made by a human scientist. It also has like adaptive strength, speed, agility, and all this stuff, and can actually compete one on one with other titans like Godzilla and others. But he's an ally. excuse me, an ally to Godzilla and others, and will actually communicate and help Godzilla and possibly Kong. So that might be something. I've just look at that as an idea, and then the other one I had is uh, Godzilla and King Kong versus the Budo. Um, in a sense, it would get some screen time for the Shinomura, uh, Budo Prime, Skull Crawlers, and other various Budo to try and um, overthrow Godzilla and King Kong. And they could still, work in King Kong trying to have, you know, his kid. See King Kong and Godzilla work together to reclaim their thrones, essentially. Um, Species that chased out their ancestors, them out. You know, that's what I put here. It's just the Dagon, which is mentioned in the comics. Um, I also include the possibility to introduce species like Anguillus or Anguirus. You would know which monster I'm talking about if I explain what it is, which is the four-legged monster with the spine shell on the back. Very famous uh, monster roar. It's the monster roar used in games, even songs. It's used in Metroid. It's used in like Super Metroid. It's used in um, uh, Linkin Park's song is a demo they recently released, available on iTunes, called "Dedicated." It's a great famous roar. And it was Godzilla's first actual monster fight from 1955. Godzilla raids again. Um, and it's supposedly, according to that movie, Godzilla's rival alpha species. And it's a monster I would believe it would make sense to travel between the hollow earth and surface with ease. And would have been hiding out for ages, like another one. Like there's more than one, because if you know what Anguirus is known for, it's known for digging in the ground with ease to be able to jump up and attack and other things, um, and get great distance in the air, and have great speed on the ground, and have high defense. So it's and even be able to know to survive Godzilla's breath with a shell. Um, so that's kind of interesting. And we could also maybe see an appearance of King Caesar, um, or work that into the script of another movie here with Godzilla versus Megalon, because you're introducing in Godzilla versus Megalon all these different ancient civilizations. I think it's a possibility too. I'm just throwing out here ideas they could do. I think the most likely one they will do next, with the idea they're saying, oh, Son of Kong, is Godzilla versus Biolante. And that is because um, they're talking about bio engineering, biogenetics in general. And if they do something like Godzilla versus Biolante, then they go into uh, Mothra, Batra, and then they're going to go and lead into Space Godzilla. And Space Godzilla is an extremely popular Godzilla villain that's super powerful, doesn't actually die either, is a immortal as well. It displays at the end of the movie it's immortal, like Biolante, but also that eventually leads into Destroya. But again, I'm just saying, with all of the possible monsters they have available to them and everything they could do with the other monsters that's created in the Monsterverse, it would be highly possible to do other things here as well. Including with more mecha stuff. Biolante is just a very possible sequel to see here, or monster being thrown in with Son of Kong. Um, yeah, I would not doubt if that happens. Um, so my final thoughts. It's as a standalone movie. It's a blockbuster movie worthy of your time and money. And as the Godzilla King Kong movie, um, you know, as a fan, it's phenomenal. That's what I'm saying there. As a fan, the movie, it's even more phenomenal. I just forgot the word fan. Put it in there. Yeah. It's a standalone movie being amazing, plus being a sci-fi movie monster film. Yeah, further completing. Yeah, I think Toho should look it over and be agreeable with that. Because it puts um, Godzilla in a good light and King Kong. They both look amazing and strong, and they're still getting stronger. I think that's good. Yeah, this is true too. We need to see more. And Toho is at this point gaining more of a fan base, and they're not losing any fans. I think this is important for them to keep in mind. And I would like to see more work from Toho and MonsterVerse. I say that here, seeing more work come from MonsterVerse would be refreshing. Welcome to films, television shows, and help from Toho directly as well. Like I want to see how Toho do stuff. Is what I'm saying here. Um, and I have a personal gripe with Shin Godzilla, and it's not that it didn't have potential. It's just I think it would work better as a TV series. And I think Toho can do better, personally. Um, yeah, that's where I stand on that movie. Um, yeah, I do stand with they're in a great position to continue their movies, and the movies have so much potential. Um, yeah, I think that's a statement here. They could stick by stopping now would hurt more than help, and I truly believe direction is something Toho would stand with. Yeah, that Toho needs to uh, support the franchise still and do their own thing as well. I think the MonsterVerse is very good, and they're actually improving. It's not like they're getting worse; they're improving. Um, the only thing they have left to improve now, I would say, is a good mixture of working on the character development. Because realistic with these kind of movies, they may have to consider to do that 2 hour runtime or 2 hour and 20 minute runtime at most, just to make sure they have the right amount of character development to make the story fit or make sure they actually fit in the story they need. Um, and that's still not a bad thing at all, um, considering the kind of scores they get from people that are really fans, the kind of fan growth they get. That's a good thing. And what I'm showing here are references. Um, so I have Amazon here as a reference in case anyone's looking to purchase a comics. Same thing. They have the official source here from Legendary for that one, and you also have available there um, their official website for Legendary, and you can purchase not just Godzilla Dominion, Kingdom Kong there as well. Official website affiliated with Toho. Right, we got Toho's website, and we got their official Godzilla website that came out recently. And this is a non-official website, but they do everything to make sure they're updated with Toho and getting all their facts information from Toho and right, but they're not officially affiliated with Toho. That's a pretty good one to go by. and other resources. So HBO Max for people who are watching the content or want to look for places to watch through HBO is a good one for the recent Godzilla movies, MonsterVerse. This site, comingsoon.net, has information on scripts and things like that. Movies coming out like years from now, or things like that. That's usually some stuff to look at. Um, and I did have a link previously to like where Toho would have information where to buy their movies or stream them or something from them, but I can't find it now. It might have been taken down. Um, but yeah, usually if you need to find a place to buy their movie or something, this is a place to find out where you can buy Toho's movies and stuff. They're able to find it from Toho where you can buy their stuff, or Godzilla.com now. I'm sure has where you can buy the Godzilla movies. Um, I think Toho Kingdom will be able to help tell you where to find the King Kong movies and stuff too. Yeah, but that's basically my review to wrap it up here. Is it's a great movie. If you're a fan of King Kong, you should be happy with it as well. Uh, King Kong's set up for a winning scenario. Um, Godzilla's set up for a winning scenario if you're a Godzilla fan. It wins too, but there's really good possible sequels in the future. And I also want to state that this movie did really well, so I don't think there's anything to show that this is going to be shut down, anything involving the MonsterVerse. Um, I've watched it personally 3 times, in different scenarios. I watched it on my laptop with family and friends on the TV. I've also watched it in theaters. I think it's a great movie. Um, so if there's any questions or concerns or anything, let me know. Please leave a like, subscribe. Um, if you have anything you'd like to leave a comment about, please do that. Thank you for watching. You have a great day.